Over the next 2 months, I'm going to be releasing my top 80 quarterbacks for the 2021 college football season. Now, making this list was pretty tough as I had to take into account players coming off injuries, players who transferred, and potential quarterback battles, and a whole lot more. Each week, I'm going to be releasing 10 quarterbacks from my list. We're going to start this week all the way back as I'm going to be starting with the quarterbacks I have ranked 71 through 80. Before we get to today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to the channel. If you love college football content like this, then this is definitely the place for you. We're going to kick off our list at number 80 with North Texas quarterback Austin Aune. After attempting only 5 passes for the Mean Green in 2019, he upped that number to 185 last year. He wasn't the full-time starting quarterback, but he did start 3 of the 8 games for North Texas. He had a pretty solid campaign as he threw for 1,700 yards with 13 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Those are some pretty decent numbers for only starting 3 games. His best game of the season came against UTEP, in which he threw for over 300 yards with 5 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. He threw for 380 yards and 3 touchdowns in a game against Charlotte, and 340 yards and 2 touchdowns in a game against Southern Miss. When given a chance to be the starter for an entire season, I fully expect Aune to put up some really good numbers in 2021. Up next at number 79, we have UAB quarterback Tyler Johnson III. He'll be entering his 4th season as the starting quarterback for the Blazers. During his career with UAB, he's thrown for 4,500 yards with 35 touchdown passes. He missed half the season last year due to injury, but was still clutch for UAB. He returned on December 12th against Rice, a crucial game on the schedule. He threw for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns while adding 40 yards on the ground, securing a spot for UAB in the Conference USA title game. Then, against Marshall, he threw for more than 250 yards with 2 touchdowns to give the Blazers the conference-winning victory. He's currently 4th all-time in passing yards and 3rd all-time in passing touchdowns in UAB history. With 1 year left, he very well can leave UAB number 1 in both of those categories. Coming in at number 78 is Texas State quarterback Brady McBride. After spending the 2018 season at Memphis, McBride transferred to Texas State. He didn't play in 2019, but was named the starting quarterback in 2020. He had a pretty good campaign as he threw for 2,000 yards with 17 passing touchdowns in only 9 games. He ranked 4th among Sun Belt Conference leaders with 214 passing yards a game. His best game of the season came against Arkansas State when he threw for more than 450 yards with 5 touchdown passes. He was solid against some good competition as well, as he completed 20 of 26 passes for 200 yards and a touchdown against number 16 ranked Coastal Carolina, and against number 12 BYU, he threw for 150 yards with 2 passing touchdowns. It was a rough season for the Bobcats standings-wise, but McBride is still one of the better quarterbacks in the Sun Belt. Up next at number 77, we have Purdue quarterback Jack Plummer. He appeared in only 3 games last year as he started the final 3 games for Purdue. He was pretty good for them though in those 3 games. He threw for 370 yards and 3 touchdowns against Minnesota, 250 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown against Rutgers, and nearly 350 yards with 3 touchdowns against Nebraska. He was on a 12-game pace of 3,800 passing yards with 32 passing touchdowns. That's not too bad. Plummer saw action here and there during his freshman campaign back in 2019 as he threw for 1,600 yards with 11 touchdowns in only 7 games. With a full season of starts under his belt, Plummer might put up some even better numbers among other quarterbacks in the Big Ten. Up next at number 76 is Michigan quarterback Cade McNamara. As mentioned in my quarterback battles video from last week, Michigan is one of the few schools who have a quarterback battle going on, and the starter just isn't known yet. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to be giving Cade the edge. He appeared in 4 games last year, but started the final 2 for Michigan. Against Rutgers, he completed 75% of his passes for 260 yards and 4 touchdowns, while also adding a rushing touchdown. He then struggled against Penn State, completing only 48% of his passes for 91 yards with 0 touchdowns. A very, very small sample size, but like I said, I think with his experience at the end of last season, that's going to give him the edge to begin the 2021 season. Up next at number 75, we have Jake Bentley, who is now the quarterback at South Alabama. This is going to be his third stop after he spent 4 years at South Carolina and then last season at Utah. In his 4 seasons with the Gamecocks, he threw for 7,500 yards with 55 passing touchdowns. His best season came in 2018 when he threw for 3,200 yards with 27 passing touchdowns. Last year didn't go as planned with Utah, as in 5 games he threw for only 900 yards with 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. With a crowded quarterback room for the Utes, he opted to transfer to South Alabama, the first time he won't be in a Power 5 conference. There's a chance for Bentley to really light it up and help South Alabama. However, he'll have to beat out Desmond Trotter, who was the quarterback last year for the Jaguars and was pretty solid for them. Ultimately though, I think the veteran Bentley is going to win the job and have a fairly nice season for South Alabama. Coming in at number 74, we have Charlotte quarterback Chris Reynolds. This will be his 4th season playing quarterback for the 49ers. He's played in 25 games over the last 3 seasons, throwing for over 5,000 yards with 36 passing touchdowns. In 2019, he set a school record with 22 passing touchdowns, put up the 2nd most passing yards in school history, and led Conference USA with a school record 153.60 passing efficiency rating. Oh, and he was the 49ers' 2nd leading rusher with 800 rushing yards, the most ever by a 49ers quarterback. In 2020, his numbers were down due to only playing in 6 games. He threw for 1,300 yards and had 8 passing touchdowns, but he only added 40 yards on the ground after nearly 800 the year prior. If we can get the 2019 version of Chris Reynolds for the Charlotte team, expect a huge year from them. Up next, at number 73 on our list, we have Wyoming quarterback Shawn Chambers. He broke his leg just a few snaps into his 2020 season, so we haven't seen him since 2019. If he's fully healthy, we'll have a chance to see one of the more underrated dual-threat quarterbacks in the entire country. Back in 2019, when he was a redshirt freshman, he started 8 games for the Cowboys, throwing for just under 1,000 yards with 7 touchdown passes. He also rushed for nearly 600 yards while averaging 6.5 yards a carry to go along with 10 rushing touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown in 7 of 8 games and had at least 2 in 3 games. Chambers had 3 games with at least 100 rushing yards and 2 games with at least 100 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. If his leg is good to go, I expect Chambers to be near the top of all quarterbacks and rushing stats in 2021. Coming in at number 72, we have Washington State quarterback Jared Garantano. This is another potential quarterback battle, as he's going to have to beat out last year's starter, Jaden DeLora. But after DeLora had a DUI this offseason and a pretty shaky freshman campaign, I wouldn't be surprised if Garantano wins the starting job. Over the last 4 seasons for Tennessee, Garantano appeared in 41 games. He threw for 6,200 yards and had 38 passing touchdowns compared to 17 interceptions. However, he just never seemed to take that next step that was needed out of him. In 7 games for the Vols last season, he threw for only 1,100 yards with 6 passing touchdowns. He ended up losing snaps to Harrison Bailey and JT Shrout. Over the course of his career, though, there have been games in which he has flashed his potential. He's thrown for over 200 yards in 10 games and has at least 2 passing touchdowns in 13 games. He has one final shot to end his collegiate career on a high note, and under a new system in Washington State, he finally might be able to thrive. Wrapping up this video at number 71, we have Oregon quarterback Anthony Brown. After some solid seasons as the starting quarterback for Boston College, he transferred to Oregon last year. During Anthony Brown's tenure at Boston College, he threw for 4,700 yards with 40 passing touchdowns while adding 4 rushing touchdowns and even 3 receiving touchdowns. He sat behind Tyler Shuck as the backup quarterback in 2020, but stepped in the Pac-12 title game against USC and in the Fiesta Bowl against Iowa State. In the Pac-12 title game, he threw 2 touchdown passes, and in the Fiesta Bowl, he had nearly 200 total yards with 2 rushing touchdowns. With Shuck gone, he'll be the starter. The only question is, for how long? Ty Thompson is going to be there, and he's one of the highest quarterback signees in the history of the Oregon Ducks program. I wouldn't be shocked to see him take over for Brown at some point. But with that being said, Brown has the only starting experience on this team, so I'm going to give him the nod. Well, that wraps up this portion of my rankings for this video. Was one of the quarterbacks I mentioned today ranked too high or ranked too low in your opinion? Drop a comment down below and share with me your thoughts. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm going to be ranking the top 80 quarterbacks for the upcoming season, so stay tuned to see where your favorite quarterback falls on this list. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you're notified when I post my next list. If you love college football content, then this is definitely the place for you. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.